everybody, my name is Paul Esden Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, and welcome to a Mock Draft Monday right here on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25, and every week we have all kinds of fun guests on the show, insiders from all over the place, and this time we've got a very special guest, and I'm going to waste no more time introducing and bringing this man on the show. His name is Emory Hunt. He is the Czar of the football game plan. So let's bring him in. Emory, gosh darn Hunt, welcome to the show, my man.
I'm doing fine, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course, and I want to dive into this immediately. For people that may not be aware, first off, of course, you should be following Emory Hunt on Twitter at FBallGamePlan, as you see right there on the handle. And Emory, if I understand this correctly, not only are you the czar of the football game plan, but you are the architect of the largest, the biggest, the most gargantuan draft guide in football history.
No, absolutely. And that is a fact. Find someone that has over 1,000 individual scouting reports. That is, no one has done that until now. And it's myself. And you can get that beautiful draft guide at footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide. And again, it's over 1,000 individual scouting reports. It's not a list. It's everyone that's in there has a report. And the good part is it helps you through the draft, right after the draft, and free agency and undrafted free agency, through the preseason and throughout the regular season, as we both know how transient the back end of NFL rosters can be.
100%. And by the way, I can be an advocate for that. I am a large consumer of draft guides, both digitally, which is what this one is for folks. There's a PDF that you could get to download it. I mean, Emory, in his Twitter hype-up video for this, he showed the Bible that it is. And prayers up for all the trees that were required for that. But you guys don't need to do that. You can purchase it at the website that Emory just said, and then you can get it right to you in digital form. And actually, it's kind of easier. Control F while you're going through the draft and jumping from one place to another, as opposed to let's go to page 642. Makes it a little easier for you. I need to ask you, Emory, because again, this is the largest draft guide in history. And when I saw that, when I heard about it, the first question I said is, Emory, I need to know this. Over 1,000 prospects, okay? Why did you feel the need, first off, to make history, one, and secondly, to go this deep? What drove you, quite frankly, to go this deep and make this kind of guide for the first time ever?
You know, that's a great question, Paul. And I feel like the answer is twofold. Number one, we're in a unique class. You know, the first draft guide that I published and put out was in 2020, and that one had just a little bit over 500 prospects. In 2021, it had about 650, prospects. And we knew that this class will be the largest draft class ever because a lot of those guys from last season went back to college. So you had the bonus year for COVID. So it's really like this is two draft classes that we broke down in one. So that's why you have the enormous amount of players. Plus, I'm at all these all-star games, right? So this year, because of COVID, and flight cancellations, I didn't make the first leg of my all-star trip, which was the Hula Bowl, Tropical Bowl, and the College Gridiron Showcase. But the second leg, I was able to go to NFLPA, Shrine Game, Senior Bowl, HBCU Legacy Bowl. And I also went to the FCS Bowl in December. And my thing is this: if I'm going to be at these all-star games and these rosters have 100 players each, you got to do the right thing by having reports on these guys, because the all-star games do a great job of funneling players for you. When you think about it, and however you want to rank which, top tier, let's say Senior Shrine, NFLPA, and so on and so forth, they're giving you a list of who the NFL thinks are guys that they are watching, So you compile that list of the all-star games you go to, and then you also add in those guys that have declared early and other guys in this unique class that have said, they've exhausted their eligibility, but they didn't go to an all-star game for whatever reason, maybe an injury or whatnot. And you have to really scrape those guys in too. So that's how you get to over 1,000.
And we were talking a little bit about this off air, but Emory, I need you to be able to pat yourself on the back here, because when you told me this, I went like, this is an incredible level of discipline that you were talking about. because to get 1,000 prospects, and you think of, again, with all the college all-star events you're able to go to and all your other responsibilities, for people don't know, you'll know if you follow them on Twitter, CBS Sports, doing all those TV hits. Again, you've got a lot of food on your plate. How the heck are you able to do this? So give us the little details. Again, we were talking about this off air, about the schedule that is required to be able to put this out there.
Yeah, and here's the thing too that I didn't mention that I should make a mention of, because it's very important. Because of what you just said, I do a lot during the regular season. I'm covering the NFL and college football for CBS Sports. Also with Football Game Plan, I have 3 Saturday morning college football shows on Next Level Sports, which is channel 623 on DirecTV, 597 on Verizon Fios. And also I have a Thursday night NFL show on Game Plus Network, which is, you have to check your cable providers to see. I know it's on Optimum and
Sure.
in other outlets. So I do a lot. So I don't get into the draft until January when I'm on these all-star game visits. So my draft stuff starts later in the process than those that cover the draft all year round. So in order to get stuff like this done, once I'm done traveling for the all-star games, I would say immediately after the Super Bowl. It usually starts a little bit before the Super Bowl, just compiling the names and getting these guys in order to, okay, I'm here are the quarterbacks I got to watch, the running backs, and I start day after the Super Bowl. And from that until it gets done, 5:30, 5 a.m. wake up, 5:30 you start, and then you go until about noon, take a break to go eat, go work out. You get back at it at 2:30, and you go to about 7 to 7:30. So you put in a long, let's say 12 to 13-hour day, and you do that every single day. Biggest key too, and I can't stress this enough, you really got to have that discipline to focus on the task at hand, which means you can't be on social media constantly tweeting out different things, because social media, as we both know, takes up a lot of time. So if you really are going to watch film, you got to watch film, and that's what it's all about. And that's how I was able to get this thing done.
Just gosh darn impressive, quite frankly, Emory. So again, people, make sure you go buy that draft guide right now. And again, that's a misconception that I think we addressed a little bit earlier, but I want to reiterate because I think it's important. A lot of people think, oh, draft guide, like a fantasy draft, magazine they'll get at the store. Oh, it's good through the draft, and okay, now I can hold up my dresser. Okay, I can throw it in the garbaggio. No. You can keep it as a resource throughout the season, and again through cuts. You see rosters going from 90 to 53. Again, there's so many interesting uses, quite frankly, for that draft guide. Again, make sure you guys check it out. And Emory, we've had a lot of different guests here on the show from all over the place, but no one that has gone as deep as you. So I think naturally the first question here, shifting over specifically to the draft, are who are some of the players in this class in your mind that aren't getting the national love that they deserve?
Well, I mean, wow. I mean, when you think about that question from the perspective of someone that has done over 1,000 individual starts, I mean, like, just ask me about somebody. But I would say, obviously, you look at the small school guys. I think the Montana State linebackers, not Troy Anderson. He's obviously someone that's getting a lot of hype, but his teammate Daniel Hardy is phenomenal. A tremendous pass rusher. I have him as a Sam backer, outside linebacker, off ball guy, but definitely can rush the quarterback. You look at a lot of the HBCU prospects. I know the talk had been last year, all throughout last year, there's no HBCU prospects that were drafted. But this year's crop of HBCU prospects is tremendous. From Joshua Williams, we all know about at Fayetteville State, to his teammate Evan De La Rosa. You look at the quarterback situation with Aquill Glass of Alabama A&M, Jeremy Higbottom of Tennessee State, Jawan Pass of Prairie View A&M. You also look at these receivers, Shamar Bridges of Fayetteville State, tremendous talent. Trey Gross of Delaware State. Going back on the back end, you have Joshua Flowers, of Winston-Salem State. So you got a lot of talent at the HBCU level this year. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Jay Jackson Williams, the offensive lineman from Florida A&M, Marquise Bell. We know about him and how well he is as a prospect. So you go back and think about the amount of talent that we're going to see. I think we'll see 5 to 7 HBCU players drafted this year, this cycle. And so there's a bunch of players. Again, we watched Sam Houston, in the spring when we were all sitting at home during COVID, watching Sam Houston win a national championship in the spring season. And we know about Zion Williams, his brother Zion McCollum, but his brother Tristan McCollum is excellent as a strong safety. Jaquez Ezert, the wide receiver. Isaac Schley, the tight end, who also can long snap. So there's a ton. And Eric Schmidt now, the quarterback, he decided to forego that extra year of eligibility, and now he's thrown into the mix. And this is someone that can run. He's a tremendous athlete. So it'll be interesting to see where he latches on. Probably more of a CFL guy, but there's a ton of talent out there for a bunch of guys that are going under the radar.
Let me bring up a name specifically that Jet fans are starting to get more familiar with. He's one of their top 30 visits, and that's Isiah Likely, the Coastal Carolina tight end, which is kind of interesting. What can you tell us about him? He's a bit off the radar. The Jets already invested $45 million in free agency at tight end, but there's still a thought that a day 3 tight end would intrigue them, a young guy that they can develop. What does Likely bring to the table?
First of all, Likely comes from the best conference you can come from, and that's the Sun Belt Conference. So he is already a really good player that I think because he played at the Sun Belt. But in all seriousness, when you think about what he brings, he's a move piece. He's an H-back. He could be a flex guy as well. He does a great job in getting open. And we've seen numerous times, he's someone that has enough speed to really go the distance. I want to say it was against my Louisiana Raging Cajuns. He had a 70-something yard touchdown reception. Wow. So this is someone that can really go. And I think he does a great job in blocking on the move. And now you think you add a CJ Uzama, who's going to be your number 1 tight end, and you want someone to feed off that. He could be someone, because of his ability as a move piece, that can also get open and be a threat, gives you another option for Zach Wilson in the passing game.
Another player that, again, suddenly has surged into the conversation, I think it was Chris Sims, is the one who surprisingly put him in the top 5, is Alec Pierce, the Cincinnati wide receiver. Again, another guy that, didn't see him. We thought there was kind of a consensus top 5 at the board at wide receiver, but apparently not. A new name in the mix, Alec Pierce. Who is he?
Someone that reminds me a lot of Robert Woods and how he gets open. He's always going to find room underneath. Someone that does a good job in making those first downs convert. And I graded him as an inside receiver, someone that can play kind of like that big slot. He gets open, he finds a way to make it happen, and someone that I think could be an integral part to a passing game. I don't see him as a bona fide number 1 option, but as a number 3 option in the passing game. He can give a lot of teams some problems, a la Robert Woods.
All right, this one I'm going to go kind of off the reservation, not any direct correlation to Pierce, but it's kind of a sad story. Damion Clark, the linebacker out of LSU, earlier this offseason, he had spinal fusion surgery. That was discovered at the combine with a herniated disc. It is expected he's going to miss his entire rookie season, but was considered one of the top linebackers in this class. Is he still draftable? Is he completely off the board? What happens with Clark?
Well, that depends on what your medical staff would say. I know each individual NFL team's medical staff will say something different, but it's unfortunate for him because you're right at the precipice of achieving that childhood dream, and now it's delayed. But again, it's delayed, not deferred, and I think that's something that's a positive sign. They say he should be able to play, resume his career, but that's just tough for a guy that worked that hard to get to that point, and see it almost slip away.
Yeah, no question about it. Again, we're speaking with Emory Hunt here on the show, and my advice is stop what you're doing, hit the thumbs up button on the video, and hit subscribe as well. Show that love and support, and make sure you do so as well for our guest, Emory Hunt at F-Ball Gameplan on Twitter. Another player that's kind of interesting, I have no idea. I mean, you're about to tell me, I'm sure, if he's going to even be available. The Jets have 4 picks in the top 38, 4 and 10 in the first round, 35 and 38 in the second round. A player Jet fans really like at safety is Lewis Seen, but it's unclear if he will make it there to the top of the second round. Emory, give us the truth. Give us the hard, honest truth. Do you think he's there? And what do you make of him as a prospect?
Possibly there. I think the draft is funny because we've reached this part of the season where there's 60 top 10 picks.
That's right.
80 picks, 80 first round locks.
Yeah.
So who knows? But let's say, and we see this every year. Let's say just last year, we saw a prospect of the caliber of Justin Fields just kind of slide, right? Mm-hmm. So you never really know. We do know there's going to be a run on a position. So whether that's offensive tackles or edge rushers or receivers, it tends to push other positions down. So he may be there at the top of the second, but from a prospect perspective, big fan of what he brings to the table. He is someone that erases or shrinks space going downhill. He will lay that thump in the alley. He's a great alley defender. He's an enforcer over the middle of the field, someone that closes quickly on the receiver in the football. So big fan of what he does, and someone that would go perfectly with a mistake eraser on the back end. I think he's more of a stronger safety than a freer safety. If that makes sense. I see him more as someone you just kind of want to seek and destroy, as opposed to having him just stay patient, get over top, make play on the ball. I see you, if you are going to go him, he would pair perfectly if you get Kyle Hamilton in round 1, and then you have seen at the top of round 2, your safety position is rock solid.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, very interesting. Could be tempting there, potentially, for the Green and White. They did that a couple years ago when they doubled it with Jamal Adams and Marcus May, so not completely foreign to the New York Jets. And to your point, that's why I love 35 and 38 so much, because every year somebody drops. We're all flipping out of the shows going, how in the heck is insert guy here? Makes no sense. Wow, he's a hidden, a free willy player here that the Jets could possibly take. With that being said, are there any players you're anticipating that may go a little later than people think, whether that be in the first round or maybe even players that surprisingly are available in the second round? If you had to put on the old prediction cap or what you could potentially see happening, who are some players that could slip?
That's the part. I to be honest, I really don't know.
Okay.
Because who would have thought Tyreek Hill would not be a Kansas City Chief?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's, this year we've seen so many surprises. So with that being said, I don't know who's not going to be in the first round. I guess if you're looking for a name, I know people will say, people will still take him, but it's hard to take someone coming off the ACL injury at that position. I'm talking about Jameson Williams. He may go later than what people anticipate, which would be, I can understand. I think we all get into a situation where we think everybody's Adrian Peterson and can just pop right back in, with an ACL injury, but it changes how that takes time. I've had it twice, it takes time. So we'll see, but that would be one name that I would say, or even one of these quarterbacks. I truly believe we may only see one quarterback, maybe two, and it's probably Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder that end up going in round 1, while the others slide into round 2.
That could be very interesting. And by the way, that's the key for me, is that I feel like sometimes people can get some of those things wrong in terms of some of the players, slipping down boards that they weren't anticipating. And sometimes things happen again. It's been one of the craziest NFL off seasons of all time. It has been absolutely wild. But let me ask you this, Emory, based on all the players that you've evaluated, I got to imagine there's some that, you love, that you'd be perhaps willing to pound the table for. And sometimes you got to risk it to get the biscuit. And let me ask you, Emory, if you were in those draft rooms, who is the player you're slamming the table for, despite the fact, and I'm using this setup here as, again, risking it, despite some factors that may make people think twice, again, injuries, character concerns, whatever red flag you choose to believe, is there still some players that you'd be willing to overlook those things because you just think they're going to translate to the NFL? Who is one player or multiple players that fit that bill for you that you'd be willing to pound the table for as Emory Hunt guys?
It's more due to a level of competition. I'm pounding the table for James Houston out of Jackson State. When he was at Florida, he was an off-ball linebacker. He made a few plays. He goes to Jackson State. They use him as a hand-in-the-dirt edge rusher. And he is one of the top sack artists in the FCS and made plays consistently behind the line of scrimmage. You talk about over 20-something TFLs, double-digit sacks. Then he goes to the NFLPA Bowl, and he just balls out as an off-the-ball linebacker again after spending a full season as an edge rusher. And so you saw the fluidity in this game. He's able to float back and forth between DN and outside linebacker and made plays in the passing game. Then he gets the call up to the Shrine Bowl and dominates there. And after just dominating, the week in Pasadena, he goes to Vegas and, plays well in the game. So for me, watching how he played this year and showing the versatility and flexibility of pretty much giving you two players in one, give me someone like James Houston, because that dude makes plays, and I would want that on my defense.
Who are some of the easiest evals for you? You didn't have to watch much tape. You saw a little bit. You're like, okay, I'm sold. This guy is going to be pretty good, and I'm going to rank him pretty highly. Who are some of the easiest evals for you as you were watching? You didn't have to see much of their tape.
Uh, you look at Zion Johnson, the guard or tackle or center from Boston College. I mean, it was rather easy to watch his film and be like, yeah, this dude is awesome. I want to say the Missouri game, every big run that Boston College had came right behind that left side. It was like, wow, he's legitimately moving dudes out the space. So he is someone that just was so easy for me to watch and see like this. Yeah, he's a plug and play guy day one. And there's only two guys that I gave 90 grades to in this draft class. I don't give out 90s often. Is you have to be like those special players. And Kayvon Thibodeau was another one. Rather easy to watch him and see how twitched up he is, how athletic he is, how fluid he is. This translates on game day. So the league could be dumb if they want to and let him fall, past two, and whoever is picking after two definitely will get a steal because he should go one. But I feel like it's prospect fatigue. People got tired of talking about him all last year and going into this year, and then they found a new shiny toy in Aiden Hutchinson to talk about. But clearly, Thibodeau is a much better athlete than Hutchinson, and I think in totality will be the better football player. Hutchinson is good, but I don't know if he's number one overall pick good.
Emory, I got to tell you, this is music to my ears, quite frankly. Kayvon Thibodeau is my favorite player in the draft, and I don't understand the slander in the street. So I'm quite frankly, I'm hoping people don't listen to you because I want them to fall to my Jets, obviously, at number 4. But I mean, selfishly, of course, I don't understand why people have just, I think, overcomplicated it, for lack of a better word. I just don't understand. The tape never lies. Watch the tape. I don't know. It seems hard to believe with some of the people going on about that, quite frankly. And let's go to the other side. Who are some hard evals for you? And there could be a variety of reasons. The level of competition. How does that translate? Sometimes we have to project and guesswork on certain players, or there could be a variety of other reasons that perhaps there could be a tough eval. Who is one player or several that fit that bill that made it a little complicated for you?
That's a good question. I would say the guys that I had, to watch an extra game on are the Washington corners. McDuffie and the other guy, I forgot his name.
Gordon, right?
Gordon. Yeah, and so Kyler Gordon. So for me, it was like, I see talent, but when you saw people talk about them as potential top 15 picks, it's like I don't know if I see that spark for a top 15 pick. I see second round picks, which is solid. That's perfectly fine. That's starters, in my opinion.
Sure.
But if I'm investing a top 32 pick, I can see other impact players at corner than those two guys, in my opinion. So I had to work a little bit harder to find the it that was preceded them before I got to watch them on film.
All right, let's get into this. Every guest, this is how we end the show. We put you in the GM chair and you make the picks for the New York Jets. And again, wherever you believe the prospects are going to be. So we won't tell you who the players are going to go before that pick. That is up to you. And we try to make it obviously as realistic as possible. So let's put you in the GM chair, Emory. I love everything that you said over this interview. So I think this is going to go pretty well. But if it does or doesn't, you can tweet at him at F-ball game plan. So feel free to do that, fans. Let's go to number 4 overall. You're running the shop, Emory. Who would you select if it was up to you with the number 4 overall pick for the New York Jets?
Because I think he's going to be there, I'll go to Kayvon Thibodeau right there at number 4. I think that instantly gives the Jets some more boost up front. And Robert Saleh's defensive guy, he would be thrilled to get a talent of the caliber of Kayvon Thibodeau.
I agree, and I think Jet fans are going to throw a lot of rose petals at your feet. Smart pick there, Emory. I like it. Let's go to number 10. Who do you pair with KT?
And it's going to be tough, man, because here you might have a situation where you have multiple prospects that can fill a void.
Yeah.
You can double down and go free safety with Kyle Hamilton and really bolster your defense, get a mistake eraser on the back end, or you can continue to help out your young quarterback. You did that at tight end. You got good backs in the backfield. Your offensive line is quite as kept sort of stable. I think it's better than advertised. Wide receiver, I think that's where they can go. So let's go with Drake London out of USC.
Yeah, Drake London is a very interesting guy. The only slight concern for people potentially is obviously he had the ankle injury last year, and then the pro day got pushed for USC because of the hamstring injury. Hopefully, he can just show everybody how good he is. Because again, the winning what was it, Pac-12 receiver of the year in like 8 games. I mean, that's unbelievable. Or player of the year. I mean, that's unbelievable. So he's a super talented guy in Emory. Because you did 1,000 prospects, we of course have to dive into the second round. So we'll go to number 35. Obviously, the Jets have a litany of needs, and thankfully, they have a lot of picks to try to fill some of these. So let's go to 35. I like the balance in the first round. Where do we go in round number 2? 35.
I like the depth here. So let's go corner. Let's go Zion McCollum out of Sam Houston.
Wow.
Athletically, he's tall. He can run. He has good ball skills. I think he'll be a phenomenal talent, and it actually fits in perfectly with the Jets defense.
You've made Robert Saleh very happy here, Emory. Very nice job. Okay, and let's finish off this puppy. 38 overall, extra second round pick. Thank you, Sam Darnold, for that one. Where did it go here at 38?
This is interesting, and I made the play for him. You want to continue to get pressure on the quarterback, so you
Of
just
course.
added Kayvon Thibodeau. You've added Zion McCollum because he could pressure on the outside perimeter in terms of being being a lockdown corner. But man, inside linebacker. Let's say for instance, if he's there,
Yes.
Troy Anderson, Montana State.
Wow.
You can either be Troy Anderson or Chad Muma, whichever one of those two is there,
Mhm.
take him. Because as much as I do like CJ Mosley's coming off an injury, you don't really know how much how much he's going to be out there, but you get someone like either Chad Muma or Troy Anderson that can run, they're athletic, they're versatile, they can pressure, they can cover. I think that would be an ideal fit. So now you've addressed all three levels of this defense. And I think this defense could be tremendous with those three players. But let's say Troy Anderson or Chad Muma. You could flip flop whichever one you want to put there. But let's go Thibodeau, Drake
Drake
London,
London. Mhm.
Muma Anderson,
Yep.
Column.
Okay, I love it. And quite frankly, we've had a lot of guests be in this chair, obviously, to wrap up these interviews, and linebacker isn't said enough. CJ Mosley's getting up there. Quincy Williams was a nice pop last year, but he's a free agent after the year. Again, the future of the linebacker position is very much in question. Of course, until Emory Hunt is making the picks, baby, and locks that in. I love it. Emory, I got to thank you so much for joining us on the show. And of course, another plug for the largest draft guide in football history. So, people, make sure you go buy it right now and get yourself another resource. I love having a lot of resources in front of me as I'm enjoying the NFL draft. It's a lot of fun. And Emory, it is must read material for all draft fans. Thank you so much for taking the time, brother.